And we are recording now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first one. This is just going to kind of go free flow, fun conversation. I am here with Brandon Prince, and he's going to make his little introduction here.
Hi, like Charles said, my name is Brandon. I've been working in the IT industry for about 15 years, mainly in security and networking. And I've worked remote for about half of that time.
Excellent. So, just kind of starting off, like, what was your first remote job like? And, what does it look like now compared to when you really first started doing it?
Um, so my first remote working experience wasn't even, so I wasn't supposed to be working remote. Um, so I was working as a system administrator for a nonprofit healthcare company. And
Hmm.
we had started to put things in place to see if not only could the IT staff, but could some of the other staff work remotely. So as we were putting these things in place, I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to come into the office for a week. And
Yeah.
that turned into a month. And by the end of it, I'm like, I don't need to come into the office ever unless
Ever.
there's a fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it just kind of snowballed from there, and I found that I really really liked being able to work from home.
Nice. So, what are some of the things that have changed from that very first kind of position to now? I mean, besides obviously technologies have changed and that aspect of it, but is there any particular points that you could say are drastically different in the way that you operate?
Well, the technology for me is really what it is. Where when I first started, we were, I was having people call my house phone because I had a landline, um,
Oh, man.
and where now my companies are using Skype for Business for all of their phone needs, or other types of Skype or VoIP solutions,
Right.
where it doesn't matter if I'm in an office or at home or driving down the interstate, that one number can still reach me wherever I'm at. Um,
Hmm.
and then with the way networks have progressed, where I can have my setup at home with my computer and everything be exactly the same as if I was to walk in the office, where you as the end user have, I mean, there's nothing really that you can see that would be different.
Right.
And that really has
And I
kind of
think that that's
pushed
so.
the ability to work from home forward.
Mhm.
Uh, no, go ahead.
Sorry, it's a little bit jittery here, so I apologize. Um, I think that it's huge now that there's this like you could operate absolutely the same as if again, driving down the interstate, that's the same number as if you were at your desk, or you could provide the same kind of service from a coffee shop or from your home desk as if you were sitting in an office or a cubicle somewhere. And so you said Skype for Business was one of the tools that you've really been using. What are some of the other things that you use for communication?
Um, so for communication, so the position that I just left, we were a Microsoft shop. So we
Mm,
dealt primarily with Microsoft products. We were actually Microsoft partnered. Um, so I used Office 365 a lot. And so any of these software as a service um, applications, Office 365 is definitely the biggest one that everyone knows. Um, so things like that are great because just like using Skype for Business, which is integrated into Office 365 now,
hmm
um, I can be sitting at a coffee shop and get the email just as if I was and just as securely as if I was sitting at a desk in an office or at home. Those two, so I've used several other messaging apps. They're all about the same. Signal's really good with its
Okay.
cross-platform.
Yeah.
And then I've had to use Sukasa, which is a plugin that encrypts everything, and it's HIPAA compliant
Oh, wow.
for
Nice.
for communication, where I can actually transfer um, PHI, so personal healthcare information. I can transfer that using Sukasa and store it in like Dropbox with Sukasa installed, so everything's encrypted to where it needs to be, and that way I can then, I can view it and stay legal from home.
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah, those the integration of virtual private networks into Windows and Apple and Macintosh are they're so much better than they used to be, and those two have made being able to remote work so much easier. I remember back in the day having to set up a VPN, and it would take an hour to get everything
Right.
set up at least, and the connection was always kind of sketchy, where now it's one button, you hit it, it's on, and you don't even notice. So the being able to work remotely securely is really, really good, and there's a ton of things out there now. But yeah, the biggest ones are definitely Office 365, and Skype for Business. And either flavor. I mean, if you don't want to pay for the enterprise license for the Skype for Business, standard Skype works just as well, and I've used it when I was on my own consulting.
Nice. So besides communication tools, as well as some collaboration tools from Office 365, are there other tools that you've used before?
I guess the only other thing would be, especially when I was on my own, always trying to pinch that penny. All of Google's tools are free, and those were the ones that I used a lot. Google Docs, Google Calendar, anything that you can securely get, whether you're sitting at home or in the back of an Uber or in a coffee shop, at a million cups. Anything that's going to allow me to view, what's going on with my business moment to moment, is definitely, that's something I look for. And for me, definitely, security is number one. Everything else falls behind that.
Right. If it's not secure, then you're not even able to use it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So let's see. We were going to talk about, this idea of being remote, and not having that I could just stop in your office anytime that I want to, kind of feel where you're working with a client or you're working for somebody. How do you maintain that high level of trust?
So with IT and consulting in IT, lots of times clients don't expect to walk into an office. They also, lots of times clients feel that if you're going to walk into an IT shop, it's going to be 15 guys wearing like dark hoodies with all the lights off and video games going in the background and loud techno music. Because and if we all had our way, that really would be what most IT consulting shops would look like.
Right.
I mean, you know, the stereotype is definitely rooted in truth there.
Yeah.
Um, but so I found that almost exclusively using uh, video chat instead of a
Mm.
phone call, if it's possible. Um, you know, even when I'm the back maneuver, I've had that before where I've been going somewhere, going to a meeting, something like that, and I've had a call, and I'm like, oh, well, you know what? Here we go, and you know, I can just hold my phone up and I can talk to them, and that right there, you know, I don't know how many times where I've had clients go, oh, you were rolling down the road in a cab and you
Yeah.
still, you know, wanted to talk face to face.
Hmm.
That means a lot to a lot of clients. You know, if they can't actually walk in and shake your hand, the next best thing is for them to see you. Um,
Right.
and and on that, you know, I've a lot of people working remote, and I definitely did this too when I was first starting out, where I was in t-shirt and pajama pants. My hair was a mess, and my office was trashed. You know, and
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm working from home. I can do this.
Right.
Um, and I found that I was retaining business, and everything was going better if I was looking like I was sitting in an office. Like, so I'm sitting in my home office right now, and it's definitely my home office. I mean, people can tell I got my drones in the background,
Right.
and you know, this is a part of my house.
Hmm.
Um, Even though I think I'd probably still have that in my office, but I
Yeah.
digress. It doesn't exactly look like this is a place where someone hangs out in their pajama pants. Um,
Right.
you know, so having that face to face and that level of professionalism, uh, I think, and honestly, you actually have to have it just that next step up, where you know Albuquerque is a very you know casual city. I've been talking to people outside who are coming in who have asked, so what is Albuquerque like? And I'm
Mm.
like, it's casual Friday every day. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and so I've always tried to stay not casual Friday, even though I am in a very, very casual city, because if I'm working with someone from New York
Hmm.
or somewhere where there's this expectation of, you know, professionalism, where they don't care that I'm in Albuquerque and it's casual Friday every day here. You know, so I've you know, and I've had people who have come over for lunch, and they're like, "You work from home, and you're in a button-up shirt and vest and tie,
Yeah.
the whole nine." They're
Right.
like, "I would be in pajamas." I'm like, "Yeah, but you just can't."
Yeah. Yeah. So it's that, just because is extremely low on the level of how dressed up that you get. If you're corresponding, especially over video, you need that level of expectation, and again, that's probably just leading back to the trust factor, right? That they think that you're not slacking off because you have that you combed your hair today, and if you had hair, and that you put on a button down shirt, and all of those little things that just kind of um, just say non-verbally that you're not slacking off, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Having your, you know, what they can see look as professional as possible, because it really is trying to get that air of being in an office or being professional. Especially with some of the clients that I've worked with in the past that are
Yeah.
yeah extremely large, you know,
Hmm.
multinational corporations. They expect something, you know, at least a certain level. Yeah.
So what are some maybe just your personal processes and your personal habits that you've kind of had to develop outside of, making sure that you're dressed up for the day, and maybe outside of the technologies. What are again some of these just little things that you have to do, that last years? And an example of this would be, you always, and depending upon what kind of client that you're working with, you always start work at a very particular time, or you always, take breaks at a certain time, or different aspects like that that you feel that, have really added to working remotely, to make you more efficient.
Okay. So, setting a routine is, I mean, it's paramount. People think, oh, working from home it's gonna be so easy. You can start and stop whenever you want. And I've fallen into that trap where I was like, oh, I can just start and stop and start and stop, and then I find that I wasn't getting anything done because I would work for an hour and then you're like, oh, the weather's really nice. I'm gonna go fly my drone for an hour, and then I come back and it takes me another 20, 30 minutes to get started again.
Right.
So when I was consulting for myself, when I was running my business, I had set hours. And the other thing that I had to avoid was I really love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, there would be other times where I would get up in the morning, be like, oh, I got this project to do. And I sit down, I start working on it, and I start digging into it and talking with
Mm-hmm.
clients and finding out what my client needed and working on the project and just going and going and going. And I look down and I'm like, ooh, I've
Right.
been at my desk for 18 hours. So I like, okay, I need to eat something. I haven't eaten in, 18 hours. So I'd go and I'd eat and
Yeah.
I'd sleep and I'd get up and I'd do it again. And this would last weeks. And,
Mm-hmm.
I would have my partner or my friends be like, where did you go? Like, we haven't seen you in 10 days. I'm like, oh, I've,
Right.
I've been working. So I've had to actually close off my office where I don't see it from like the casual parts of my home, where I'm gonna eat dinner or if I'm gonna relax and I'm gonna watch some TV or play some video games. I don't do that in my office. I do kind of work on some drones and stuff, but I've got a really big desk, so
Mm-hmm.
I can spread things out here. But
Yeah. Yeah.
other than that, my desk in my office is for work, and
Yeah.
I try and not work more than 10 or 12 hours a day if I'm doing it for myself. When I was working for the consultancy, we had some very set times.
Mm-hmm.
Our core operations were 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern time, so I was always up a little early.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or I also had some shifts that were at night because we had customers in London and Australia, so then I would be 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. local time. All right, yeah, 6 p.m. to no 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Got to do the math there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so doing these kind of strange overnight stuff when it was daytime for them. But it was, I always had a set point where I turned everything on, I logged in so that everyone else in the organization knew that I was on,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really good thing with Skype for Business.
Right.
Um,
You can see the
you
little
know,
active. Yeah.
yeah, and so with Skype for Business, you can have not only active but away, off. So there would be times where I could set it off work, done, no one's going to bother
Mm-hmm.
me. But it also showed if you were in a meeting, because it integrates with Outlook.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you had a meeting on your calendar, as soon as that meeting started, it popped up in
Yeah.
your Skype that said, a little red circle said, hey, I'm busy.
Nice.
or if you were presenting through Skype, sharing your screen, or on a video call, it came up and said that you were presenting and it wouldn't push things through. But yeah, and then when it was time for me to be done, I made sure that I turned that to off, or that I wasn't on anymore, and walked out of the room, closed the door, and definitely tried to treat my home office as just that, an office. If I'm there to work. If I'm not in there, it's not work time. If I hear things buzzing and going off in there,
Right.
I'm not working.
Right.
It
Right.
can
Gives you
it can
permission to
last.
be able to ignore it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that for me is one of the hardest parts, was giving myself that permission to not be at work with a home office.
Right. So we're at the end of our 20 minutes, but I wanted to ask one last question. Is there anything in particular that you feel a company that is looking to work with remote employees should know?
Definitely put in the infrastructure to allow the efficient, secure communication, because honestly, I think having the ability to communicate well using Skype, I've seen companies use Discord, which I know most people just use for video games, but
Right.
companies are like, hey, this works really well. It's 3 buttons and you're set. Or Slack or Sukasa, any of these things, because that is really the hardest part with remote work, is keeping that level of communication between the people who are working off-site and people that are working on-site.
Right.
So if you can make that as easy as possible, the rest just kind of falls into place.
Are there any particular tips that you have for using those kinds of platforms that may be different than what people are used to in text messages, phone calls, and email?
Not really, except for maybe the remote user, the person who is there. If you're not scheduled to be on, if it's not your time to be there, it's okay to push it off until tomorrow, just like if you were in an office. I know that's one of the biggest things, is people get burned out because they feel that they're on all the time. So definitely, it's okay to be like, nope, I'll deal with that tomorrow.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, Brandon, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and I appreciate you so very much.
Definitely. Thank you.
You got it.